right. Okay, perform the division of multiplying the fraction in the numerator by the reciprocal. Remember, reciprocal is just a fancy way to say flip the fraction of the denominator. Okay, and third step, you just want to write it in the lowest form. I mean, simplest form. Okay. Now, for the first step, you might want to put if necessary, because sometimes you don't have to do this. So the first example will show where you don't have to do that. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's do a couple of examples. Make sure everyone's still writing. All right. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you wanted to simplify, let's say 5 over x divided by 3 over x. Okay, so here you already have a single fraction in the numerator and a single fraction in the denominator. So you don't have to do anything for step 1. Okay, so you can skip step 1 on this one. Okay, so your second step, basically you're just going to rewrite it. So you have 5 over x divided by 3 over x. Okay. Now once you rewrite it, then you just get your rules of dividing fractions. Remember, you write down the first one, change your division to multiplication, and then you flip the second one. Okay. And once you do that, you just multiply it across. Okay, so remember, that's 5 times x over 3 times x, or x times 3, doesn't matter how you put it. Let me clean that up a little bit. Okay. Then the third step is just going to simplify it. So here you can do the third step here by canceling out the x. Okay, so the two x's cancel each other out. So you're left with 5 over 3. All right. So any questions on that one? Okay, so let's do one where we actually have to do step 1. Oops, if anyone's still writing. All right. Okay, so for this example, say if we wanted to simplify, make sure I have it up. say 1/2 minus 1 over x divided by x divided by 3 plus 1/5. Okay, so in this one you actually have to do the first step because now you have two fractions up here and two fractions in your denominator. So you want to have just one fraction in both of them. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to subtract your numerator. I got to subtract the numerator or denominator. Okay, so we know our 1/2 minus 1 over x. You want to get the like denominators so you can subtract them. So that means you can get this one and multiply it by x over x, and this one and multiply it by 2 over 2. So basically that would give them the same denominator. So if you have, let me give that a little more room so you can see the steps. 1/2 minus 1 over x. You multiply this one by x over x. And multiply this one by 2 over 2. You now have 2x in this denominator and 2x in that denominator. So they match. Okay, so that means if you multiply these numerators, 1 times x is just x over 2x minus 2 times 1 is 2 over 2x. So if your denominators match, then that means your answer is going to be something over 2x. And here you just subtract your numerator. So you have x minus 2. Okay, so now we turn that into this single fraction. In the numerator. Okay, any questions on that step? All right, so now we have to do the same thing for the denominator. Good. Now put a little star next to them to kind of separate them. So that means x divided by 3 plus 1 divided by 5. Let me separate that with a little line. You can rewrite that, give it a little bit of space. Multiply this one by 5 over 5. And multiply this one by 3 over 3. Okay, so we have 5 times 3 and 5 times 3, so both will have a denominator of 15. Okay, so we have 5 times x in this numerator over 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 1 times 3 here, which is just 3, over 5 times 3, which is 15. Okay, so if your denominators match, your answer is just going to be something over 15. And you just add your numerators. So you have 5x plus 3. Okay, so now we have our single fraction in our denominator. Okay, so now that we did both of them, we just rewrite. So, we'll move that up a little bit. 1/2 minus 1 over x over x to the third plus 1/5 becomes our 1/2 minus 1 over x becomes x minus 2 over 2x. Divided by our x plus 3 plus 1 over 5 becomes 5x plus 3 over 15. Okay, so now we have both of our single fractions. Okay, any questions on that step? All right. Now your second step is where you rewrite it. So instead of x minus 2 over 2x divided by 5x plus 3 over 15. Oh, let me put that. So we rewrite it. That becomes x minus 2 over 2x divided by 5x plus 3 over 15. Oops, slide that up a little bit. Okay. Then once you do that, you just go ahead and use your rules for dividing fractions, where you write down the first one, x minus 2 over 2x. Your division changes to multiplication, and then you just flip the second fraction. 15 over 5x plus 3. Okay. And then you just multiply it right across. Okay, so you have 15 times x minus 2 over 2x times 5x plus 3. Okay, so remember, this denominator is multiplied to that entire denominator. So you don't want to just multiply 2x times 5x. You want to make sure it's the whole thing. Okay, and here you don't have anything that can cancel out. So you can either leave it like this, or you can distribute the 15 and distribute the 2x, which would give you, if you distribute the 15, 15 times x is 15x. 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. If you distribute the 2x here, 2x times 5x is 10x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. So either one of these will be correct. Move that up a little bit more. Okay, so any questions on that one? All right, so usually the hardest step is step 1. Once you get past the adding and subtracting of the fractions, it's pretty smooth sailing down there. All right, make sure everyone's done. Keep it up for a few seconds. All right. Okay, so what if we wanted to simplify? One over z minus 1/2 over 1/3 minus z over 6. Put a line through my z to kind of separate them, because if I'm writing too fast, my z will look like a 2, and everybody's all confused. Okay, so we have 2 fractions in the numerator and 2 fractions in the denominator. We don't want 2 fractions, we want just one, so we have to subtract those. Okay, so your first step is, in this case, subtract, but add or subtract. The numerator or denominator. To make a single fraction. Okay, so from there, we're going to do the numerator first. So you have 1 over z minus 1/2. So that will become, give it a little bit of space, 1 over z minus 1/2. Multiply this one by that denominator, so 2 over 2. And multiply this one by that denominator, which makes it z over z. Okay, so you have 2 times 1, which is 2, over 2 times z, which is 2z, minus 1 times z, which is z, over 2 times z, which is 2z. Okay, so as long as your denominators match, your answer is going to be something over 2z. As you can see, when I write fast, my 2's look a little bit sloppy, so hence the line through the z. Okay, now we just subtract our numerators. So 2 minus z. So we have our single fraction. Okay, so now we do the same thing with our denominator. So we have 1/3 minus z over 6. And with this one, you don't have to multiply the first one by 6 over 6, and I'll show you why. Since 6 is the multiple of 3, if you wanted to, you could just turn this into 6. So you can multiply it by 2 over 2. Now, if you multiplied it by 6 over 6, you wouldn't get the wrong answer, and this one by 3 over 3. It would still be right, but you have to do a lot of reducing later. So if you just multiply it by 2, it kind of limits the amount of reducing you'll have to do. Okay, so you multiply this one by 2 over 2, so that becomes 6. And this one, you can either leave it blank, or you can multiply by 1 over 1 just to do it. Me, I like to keep the same steps over and over and over just to kind of drill them into my head, so I'll just put 1 over 1 there. Okay, so that means you have 2 times 1, which is 2. Oops, slide that up a little bit. Over 2 times 3, which is 6, minus z times 1, which is z, over 6 times 1, which is 6. Okay, so we already know we have a matching denominators, so our answer is going to be something over 6. Okay, so we have 2 minus z right there. Okay, so we have our single fraction. Okay, this is our single fraction numerator. This is our single fraction denominator. Okay, so that just means we just rewrite our original one. Okay, so 1 over z minus 1/2 over 1/3 minus z over 6 becomes our 1 over z minus 1/2 became 2 over z, well, 2 minus z over 2z. And our 1/3 minus z over 6 became 2 minus z over 6. Make that a little bit clearer. It's still a little sloppy looking. There we go. Okay. So now we go to our second step where we just rewrite it, cancel if we can, and go from there. Okay, so your second step is where you just rewrite it. Okay, so this now becomes 2 minus z over 2z. Divided by 2 minus z over 6. Okay. And then we just use the rules of dividing fractions, where first thing you want to do is drop your first fraction. So make sure I have enough room here. So your first one is 2 minus z over 2z. Your division changes to multiplication. And then you flip your second one. So you have 6 over 2 minus z. And if you just multiply that straight across, you end up with 2 minus z times 6 over 2z times 2 minus z. Okay. So your 2 minus z's will cancel each other out. And you can cancel it out here if you want to, or you can take it and cancel it out over here. 6 over 2z. Okay. So we know that 6 is equal to 3 times 2. So if you write that as 3 times 2 over 2z, the 2's cancel out. And you end up with 3 over z as your final answer. So bring that up a little bit. Oh, write a little 6 equals 2 times 3. All right, so any questions on that one? Now, if you want to just go 6 divided by 2 is 3, that would be fine too. Like I said, I have my own little process of doing things. All right, any questions on this one? All right, I'll leave that up for a few seconds. I think everyone has it. All right. Okay, so let's say, for example, if we wanted to simplify 1 over 8 minus 1 over y divided by 8 minus y over 4y squared. Okay. Now you notice with this one, you have a single fraction in your denominator, but you have 2 fractions in your numerator that you have to subtract. So you really only have to do step 1 for the numerator. Okay, and I'll give you a few minutes to try this one on your own. So for this one, first step, you're going to add, subtract. Okay, so we only have to do that for the numerator. See if I can beat the clock. 1 over 8 minus 1 over y. Remember, that's going to become, give that a little bit of room. 1 over 8 minus 1 over y. And this one, you multiply by that denominator, y over y. And this one, you multiply by that denominator, 8 over 8. Which becomes 1 times y is just y over 8 times y minus 1 times 8 is just 8 over 8 times y. Okay, so we know just by our denominators matching, we're going to have an answer over 8y. And we just subtract our numerators from there. Y minus 8. Okay, so we don't have to do that for the denominator since it's already a single fraction. Okay, so that means, move that up a little bit, 1 over 8 minus 1 over y divided by 8 minus y over 4y squared now becomes our 1 over 8 minus 1 over y is y minus 8 over 8y divided by 8 minus y over 4y squared. Okay, and you can just rewrite it from there. So now that becomes y minus 8 over 8y divided by 8 minus y over 4y squared. Yep, I will not beat the clock. It's going to shut off at